I visited Fuvahmulah for the first time last April, right before quitting my job to start this master's program. At the time, I was driven to go as a personal mission to come face to face with one of my greatest fears. I didn't realize that would then turn into a year-long curiosity and eventually my capstone project. Sharks have been protected in the waters off of Maldives since 2010, when the government implemented a shark sanctuary and total ban on shark fishing. And Fuvahmulah, the only single island atoll in the Maldives, is home to an abundance of shark species and other pelagic life. And it's rapidly gaining popularity as a premier diving destination, best known for its resident tiger sharks. The tiger sharks here have been hanging out in the shallows of the fishermen's boat harbor for centuries, having become accustomed to the fishermen throwing overboard the fish scraps from their daily catch. The dive shops now facilitate tiger shark dives based on self-regulated rules, organizing a schedule and overall process for diving the harbor. Unlike shark diving operations in other regions that might chum waters in the open ocean to attract sharks, the tiger sharks in Fuvahmulah were already present in their harbor. Local dive shops simply discovered a prime dive site. Now the community has come together to develop a set of customary laws in how their tiger dives are facilitated that both prioritize safety and benefit the community collectively. And now this industry is bringing more visitors to the island, creating demand for more businesses, fueling infrastructure development, and creating more job opportunities for locals. It's also strengthening the locals' relationship with the ocean, encouraging more women and younger generations into fields like marine science, and even converting some fishermen to be shark advocates. But there's a reason shark diving can be quite a polarizing topic, especially when any type of fish feeding is involved. Environmentalists, scientists, and shark advocates alike often split between those that believe in the value that shark tourism brings and those who think it's too risky or even unethical. Having more people have meaningful experiences with large sharks in the wild can help promote conservation efforts. But on the other hand, routinely exposing them to divers and food scraps can also have ecological and behavioral impacts. And of course, safety is never 100% guaranteed. So among these binary dialogues, it's important to take into account Fuvahmulah's geographical and socio-ecological context, because there's no one-size-fits-all with shark tourism. And to address these gray area challenges of shark tourism, I set out to look at Fuvahmulah as a case study and investigate the impacts of this new industry on the community. I wanted to gather perspectives from the locals to understand what factors we need to consider to ensure the sustainability and longevity of this industry. So I ventured to Fuvahmulah to film and talk directly with the stakeholders most impacted by or involved in shark tourism. And after 2+ days of travel and 3 flights later, I finally touched down on the island and worked with the Miaru team, a local NGO and research platform focused on shark conservation in the Maldives, to connect with locals I can speak with. I had only a week on site, so I had to jump at every opportunity. And this meant doing a 10 p.m. interview one night and also having one interview turn into 2 on the day that I wasn't prepared with proper audio equipment. And some of us also became out of commission for a couple days due to a stomach bug we acquired on the way to the Maldives. So there were a couple minor hurdles. But in the end, I was able to film and conduct interviews with 5 individuals. They included stories from 2 from the diving industry, 2 from the fishing community, and a conversation with a member of the local government council. And I spent the past 10 weeks packaging up these interviews with additional footage I filmed on the island to edit and create a 5-part video series to portray each of the individual stories. And here's one of those videos, or what I'm calling video portraitures, featuring Hamna, the first female dive instructor from the Fuvahmulah community.
This island has so much potential to be so much more than anything else the Maldives even have witnessed. I feel like if the dive centers are smart and work together as a unit, as a community, a lot can be achieved. My name is Hamna Hussain. I am a dive instructor / aspiring shark conservationist. The story of my first dive is actually very personal to me, I will say, because I was struggling through a lot of mental health issues, and there was this one night where I almost had given up, but no one really knew about it. But coincidentally, the next day, my friend just barged into my room, got me dressed, didn't tell me where he was taking me, and we took the boat out. They put chum inside the harbor. Have you ever seen a shark come up and look at you right in the eye, and you can see their eye is moving and checking you out, and you know they're acknowledging you and giving you that respect? A lot of tourists come in and they immediately compare this place to like the Bahamas, the Fiji. But the thing about the entire Maldives is sharks are dependent on the fishermen. Sharks and fishermen, they are this two end of the sticks, you know, like they go hand in hand. So what the divers started doing was they are just taking the scraps that the fishermen are discarding. Instead of throwing it away, they're asking, hey, can we get this? Usually they just take the 2 or 3 tuna heads and then they go diving with them. So it's not like we are introducing a whole set of new food, or like it's not like we are tipping anything out of balance. So if the fishermen are in a good mood, the divers get to dive. So essentially, this whole island, this whole thing is dependent actually on the fishermen. I think liveaboards are one of the biggest challenges as well. There were dives where we are doing the dive and I will see liveaboards just jumping with like 50 people and 2 guides. They're not looking, they don't know the behavior, they don't know how to read the sharks. And you can see the sharks going up and people poking the stick, or some are not even aware to like look behind you, there's a shark. And sometimes I personally had to go swim and like push people away because a shark is coming towards them. There needs to be a set regulation, and guides need to be trained in a specific way where they know the behavior, they understand the sharks. Then only you can give your guests a good experience as well. I think right now the council are starting to see that there needs to be something done, and it's all entirely up to the council and the stakeholders as well, because it's essentially their livelihood that is dependent on it. The biggest challenge the council faces is people who are making these regulations, who have the authority to make these regulations, they're not divers. I feel like that's where the dive centers, the dive guides, everyone comes in and fills in that gap, because essentially it's your livelihood you're protecting and your island you're protecting. I just came back to the island after like 6 months and I can see a big shift. So I think that's a really good start to hopefully a better future where everyone, instead of being competitive, everyone works together.
While Hamna reflected on her personal journey into diving and the changing dynamics within the industry, my conversations with the other community members revealed other nuanced perspectives on what's happening on the island. Tol, a dive center owner and recreational fisherman, discusses the realities and challenges of running the tiger shark dives, and he mentions that the increase in diving and tourism has led to rapid changes in both the community and the sharks' behaviors. Shehnaz, a member of the city council and founder of Women in Fuvahmulah, explains how the dive industry has created many ocean-related career opportunities for the community, encouraging more youth and women to get involved. Aslam, a fisherman turned dive center employee, explains the evolving relationship between the diving industry and fishing community, and reveals the origins of why the sharks started aggregating in the boat harbor. And lastly, Abdul, a seasoned fisherman, shares his concerns about the shark species surrounding the island, explaining the different behaviors he's witnessed between the tiger sharks and the silvertip sharks that are also commonly sighted swimming in schools. Through these conversations, I learned that the community overall is happy with the increase in tourism and the benefits they share collectively as a result, but they acknowledge that there's still much to be done in terms of finding ways to collaborate more and creating regulations that consider all the stakeholders involved. And there are still many unknowns to how this level of activity will continue to impact the community, the sharks, and the ocean ecosystem. And hearing these stories reinforced the importance of looking at shark diving at a regional level and not as a black and white topic with rules that could apply globally. What is happening in Fuvahmulah, the way they organize the shark dives, their method of feeding, the community agreements and regulations that help manage these resources cannot directly be applied to another shark destination and vice versa. And in order to offer a blueprint of considerations for both visitors and local stakeholders in Fuvahmulah and make these stories accessible to both audiences, I also created a webpage hosted by Miaru to showcase the videos and provide additional context that tie them all together. It's meant to be an evolving collection where more voices and video portraitures can be added to expand on the community's story. And you can visit the site at miaru.org/stories. Finally, I want to say thank you to my Tiger Shark Committee, Zuzu, Emmy, and Sachi, for your time, your wisdom, and thoughtfulness throughout the process. And thank you to my on-site team, including Keenan, who was my scientific diver and supporting cinematographer, Zuzu and the entire Miaru team for connecting me with locals, Lonu and the Shark Island dive crew for being vigilant shark guides, and Nadwa for helping with the post-production interview translations and transcriptions, because 3 of the 5 interviews were done in Divehi, the Maldivian language. And of course, thank you to the NBC cohort, and shout out to Dane as well for being on site with us, and the SIO community and friends and family who reviewed any early video drafts or even just provided moral support throughout. And now I'll open up to questions. The smaller liveaboards that don't ever stop, and have the people come onto the island. They just stay out in the ocean. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so because it's all self-regulated right now, there aren't really like set government regulations that would dictate how the liveaboards, for example, would facilitate those tiger dives. So they kind of are a little bit more removed from how the community has agreed to doing them. And so that's why they can go a little rogue. Yep.
Hey, Lorea, we've got a couple questions from the web, actually. They're both sort of related. How do you imagine that the portraiture video series will expand or evolve to live beyond the website? And then people are also wondering how they can see the other videos that they didn't see today.
Yeah. I'll answer the second one first. The website contains all of the videos, as well as some additional context. So you can go to that on the miaru.org website. It's also a YouTube playlist that's accessible as well. And for expanding or kind of the future of the project, I do envision creating a version of the videos into one narrative, kind of stitching it all together, and making more of like, I guess, a traditional documentary film, so that can be shared more widely with a greater audience. Yeah, so that's the experience of the local fishermen. Depredation is a thing that they've been reporting, where, yeah, the sharks, I guess, kind of interact with them while they're trying to reel their fish in. From the diving community, one of the other interviewees, Toll, in his video, he does touch on the shark behavior changes that he's witnessed as just a diver. And the fact that it used to also be more silvertips silvertip sharks in the harbor, and now there are more tiger sharks, for example, and that's just a change within probably since like 2010. So within the last 10 years or so, and yeah, a lot of this still needs to be looked at over the years. I think it's really just been the last few years where it's just really picked up as this hotspot, and so a lot more people are coming, and a lot more developments happening. And Miaru, the NGO I mentioned, is really spearheading a lot of research into the sharks there. So they're doing a lot of photo IDing, more deep sea, camera work to understand the waters and sharks.